Ani aganye.
Okay, so am I clearly audible?
Team proposition, are you there?
I'm here. So am I audible? I'm just wondering whether I'm audible. So I think I'll begin my speech.
Proposition, are you there?
Speaking. I don't know, it might be your mic, but proposition is speaking. We can hear him.
Is he speaking still?
He has muted. Kloves, I think you can speak.
Yes, you are audible. Kloves, what is happening? Okay, proposition, are you ready? Yes? Kloves, can you speak up, please? Personally, I'm not able to hear anything. I do not know if anyone else is hearing anything.
No, we also can't hear him.
Right. Maybe, Kloves, what you do, you go off the call and reconnect again.
Okay, so I think without wasting time, because we've already wasted much, allow me begin my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Ciao. As I begin my speech, it is really important to note that personality is something that is constant, i.e., shall we think that character evolves, and basically even what relationship seeks for is basically the compromise of one's particular dislikes and likes in the vast majority of instances. Cha. That's proud to propose this motion. Cha. This houses Belinda who would then pursue a long-term relationship with Mil. Cha. This debate seeks us to interrogate that what is then in the best interest of then Belinda, but largely Cha. Also to note what are the interests or what are the basic probably kind of characters that then then Belinda has. So, yeah, we think a couple of things in terms of framing and characterization. Then Belinda is this kind of ambitious woman who is probably bright and all that stuff. So, yeah, but we think that Belinda basically then seeks for things like personal growth. That is number one. But secondly, then Belinda seeks to achieve her ambition, largely experience, and then above all and most importantly, Belinda is seeking for a supportive partner or someone that can support her in what she does. So, yeah, what does that mean? That necessarily means that the partner that then Belinda ought to have is then one that meets all those particular qualities. Yeah. Then I think I just begin with things like to do with characterization of what then personality looks like. That personality is hey, this particular kind of thing that is then not constant, but rather changes and evolves over time since yeah, we likely think that someone's experiences and someone or the problems or probably the successes they basically get in life they do much in determining their particular character. That's i.e. On characterization of Mill, then Mill is probably by prospectivity is this kind of person that is probably gonna become a CEO. That necessarily means one the passion then is gonna have for the work basically, and probably the passion for the personal growth that then is gonna have in that particular sort of time. We then think that Mill is the best partner or is the best particular kind of person that then Belinda would want to take for a partner. We largely think that probably on some particular kind of extensive analysis on what then our relationship looks like. So we think what a relationship looks like is one basically where still we have things like dislikes and then probably likes, or what these particular individuals are interested in and what they're not interested in. Panel notice that hey, these particular relationships also probably entail things like hey, so if I have my dislikes and you have your likes, or probably at a time they're gonna contradict. But we think that even if this does not occur in the vast majority of instances, or probably when you guys are dating, then it will still occur when you guys have probably entered marriage. So we don't expect arguments from team opposition that hey, we think basically that or these annoyances probably kind of this is a device particular marriages. We think that in the vast majority of instances, annoyances are basically symmetrical and probably they occur. But then what makes a long-term relationship, and that is what this Belinda is looking for. So what does a long-term relationship look like to begin with? We think that is actually is very much important for us to know what then these long-term relationships look like. So we think that these long-term relationships then look like those. They are not basically those that there exists a predominant level of absence of annoyances, but rather we think that what these long-term relationships look like is the a willingness one to grow and basically forego this particular kind of shortcomings that a particular individual could have in that regard. So we think that over time, this particular person or Mill in and of himself is basically going to grow. So we don't expect arguments that hey, so we think probably Mill is not basically meeting other qualities, or then Mill has annoyances to this particular Belinda. We think that as Belinda, what is in her best interest is basically to achieve or to probably kind of grow with a person that one they have probably uniform and actually relative or shared interests, but also largely someone that basically will help her achieve her ambition. And we largely think that what is in Belinda's best interest is basically something that is meets the qualities that she probably wants in the first place. So, just for purpose of engagement, I'll engage a POI. In three, two, and one. So we basically think that even Belinda, in and of herself, she's basically not particularly kind of partaking this marriage, probably because she wants to take over probably or conjugal property or things like wealth from Mill. But largely, shall we think that this is a time or probably Belinda is particularly kind of pursuing this particular relationship, and she should pursue this relationship. Why? Because then this is the kind of relationship that will probably give her the personal growth that she's seeking for, but also largely things like the supportive kind of environment or the supportive personality that then she wants, or but largely also on the experience part of it. So within this Mill then looks like this one was potty, also largely she probably this Mill has actually he proves the ability for personal growth as time evolves. Because for someone to basically be a CEO, you then need a significant level of passion for what you do, but also largely you need things like professional growth, which things still foster for personal growth in the end of the day. So we think that Mill is then this particular kind of person that will evolve over time and probably kind of change. Even the character still changes. Since I tell you that hey, personality and character still evolve and change over time because of the experience of someone has, but also largely, shall we think that is in the best interest of Belinda to take on this particular kind of husband, and by extension and argumentation, that is what my second speaker is gonna do. We think that actually our first principal argument is basically that for the fact that they have a significant level of shared interest, then it is basically as Belinda Belinda should then pursue this particular kind of relationship. Why is that important? We think that shared interests then become very significantly important because this is basically what gives you the bonding. Allow me to give you an example.
probably even lacks this whole idea of mutual at the end of that day. And with that, why should Belinda go ahead to actually keep on being persistent with such a relationship, despite the fact that she knows that he's going to be a CEO and a probably a wealthy person at the end of that day? We're going to show it to you throughout our opposition case. So with that personality, we have to understand that the inherent significance of a relationship is when both partners are able to build each other and probably have shared values. At a point in time, once such a person, or like such Mel's personality is inherently very bad to her, or probably she necessarily doesn't like his personality, despite the fact that even though he gives her pleasant company, it's high time for her to actually cut it and probably even pursue other things. I mean, Mel's not the only person within the world. So with that sense, we shall show you how from opposition's world, they necessarily don't even achieve the whole idea of personal growth or experience and all that sort. And we shall show you that even Belinda has the potential to actually be a wealthy person at the end of the day. What do you get from opposition side? First and foremost, we have to understand that the capabilities of Belinda to actually achieve success on her own is highly determined. We have to understand that this is a person who, she's studying computer science. She's in her young 20s, she's bright and ambitious. So at a point in time, once she sees, such, a vision that, her current partner is going to be a wealthy person, it makes it from propositions world where you're going to tell her that, pursue such a long-term relationship with Mel, that inherently builds a sense in her mind that, she can probably be compatible with this person and probably even, bring up herself to actually outcompete such a person. But then that necessarily means that she's able, there's a very big likelihood that she's going to undermine her capabilities since, she knows that her current partner is going to be that so-called rich person at the end of the day. But then secondly, we have to tell you that Mel's success is inherently guaranteed. That is to say, Mel is going to be a person who's going to be a millionaire, is going to be very wealthy. What that necessarily means is that he's able to actually achieve all what he's going to achieve, but the person who necessarily is the person whose success is necessarily not guaranteed is Belinda within this context. That is to say, with the foresight, there is a such a personality even Miles has is going to, affect Belinda at the end of the day. That is why from our side as Belinda, we think that we need her to actually go for healthy relationships where her partner's personality isn't annoying to her, whereby all their interests and values are shared. But then secondly, we want her to actually go ahead and focus on her goals and capabilities. But the point is that once you give her such a platform for her to actually go ahead and pursue a long-term relationship with Mile, only goal within this is for her to actually, her only goal like proposition, paints to us is like a wealthy partner at the end of the day she necessarily needs. We tell you from our side of the house that Belinda has the biggest capabilities for her to go ahead to actually achieve even more wealth than necessarily Miles can actually achieve at the end of the day. From our side of the house, what do we necessarily achieve a team opposition. One, we tell you she's able to achieve her goals, that is to say, like, you know, be a very smart student and, you know, graduate well. But then secondly, she's able to actually self-actualize and enjoy her life to the, you know, and probably even, you know, get maximum happiness. From our side of the house, she's able to have personal growth. At a point in time, she not only doesn't have to look, you know, picture perfect to Mile, because she wants to sustain a long-term relationship, since she ideally knows what Mile is going to probably achieve in the coming years. And from our side, she is able to actually experience her life to the fullest. So from our side of the house, chair, we tell you that Mile's success is guaranteed and Belinda is not guaranteed. That is why we want her to actually cut off such a long-term relationship. We wouldn't want her to actually get a long-term relationship with Mile on how she's going to actually, you know, how it's necessarily going to affect her. And we give you different layers of, you know, analysis on that. But then secondly, we tell you what Mile's personality necessarily looks like and how, and probably that kind of effect it's going to do to Belinda at the end of the day. And with that, from our side, we show you why Belinda and should not pursue a long-term relationship with Mile. But then secondly, we are able to fulfill Belinda's interest and probably give her net benefit. And with that, we're proud to oppose.
Well. Thank you so much, Speaker, for the amazing speech. Let us hear from the second speaker proposition.
Well, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. I really think the OP case is definitely measured on how Belinda can be able to have a future which is bright on her side alone without even pursuing a long-term relationship with Miles. I think that's very problematic because the Infoslide already shows us that Belinda definitely has a better future with Miles. Whether she has a good future, whether she can pursue a good future since she's bright and ambitious, but definitely her long-term relationship with Mill offers a better future. I really think the burden on team opposition had to actually be that they show us why these annoyances should overweigh all the benefits that even our first speaker presents to us and that the Infoslide presents, why they should not pursue it. I really think the case they've run does not make them win from first. Maybe we can wait for second. I really think one issue they bring up with is having this pursuing the long-term relationship with Mill is going to undermine her capabilities. We really think this is unlikely. One, because what Mill himself, Belinda herself is very ambitious. She's very bright. By someone being bright, I really think you really want to show the value of your brain. And if you're very ambitious, then you also want to actually achieve personal goals, since ambition may not be necessarily determined on some other person's goals. So by the fact that Belinda is very ambitious, it already shows that even when she knows that going to marry a rich millionaire, her herself, she also values her interests and she's not going to lose her capabilities. That only shows to us that pursuing the long-term relationship is not going to undermine her values on that extent. What we expected mostly is show why the little annoyances, of which even Kloves' speech already shows to you that in all relationships, compromise has to come in place. Then that's what we expected Team Affirmative to show to us, why Team Negative show to us why this compromise in terms of Belinda is not worth it. I think they failed to do that. Once it comes to the issue of losing focus on her studies, since she already knows her man is going to be really rich, I think that's also very unlikely because why? And Belinda is not likely to neglect her studies only due to the fact that she's very bright and she's very ambitious and she also wants to be as a woman. And marrying a millionaire CEO, by the fact, I really think even the status of the wife has to be something that's very high. And if Belinda is actually take on an option of pursuing the long-term relationship, it does not seem very easy for a woman who's bright to just be something who didn't finish her studies, but she thinks she only lives because the other one is a millionaire. Like the society perception of such women is very low, and really think Belinda is not a woman who may actually fall in that category. In that she dreams of just being a housewife who is to be considered as someone who's just thriving off the billionaire's money. We think that's something problematic and think Belinda can be able to still pursue her studies. But even still, this motion particularly had to show us why the little annoyances are things that are very major and should not come in this case. But Team Affirmative, Team Op decides to run what may be what could become the problem if she does this, except the annoyances. So should we take that they consider the fact that the annoyances are not enough to make her not to pursue a long-term relationship? Let's look at this. Even if she's able to pursue more wealth than Mills, then if they are together, they will pursue a lot of more wealth than Belinda would have alone. alone. It's just common sense that 2 is better than 1. Really think the issue of wealth definitely falls when they are together. And even the Infoslide, it's guaranteed in the holy Infoslide that we have for today. But then, on our side of the house of STEAM affirmative, first and foremost, a long-term relationship, what does it look like? Really think a long-term relationship is one that looks like trust, that looks like mutual understanding and communication between these two. And by the fact that that happens, then the annoyances that Team Op should defend majorly show that this can actually change with time. By the fact that right now they are still at school, but yet the environment and experiences that you go through do a lot to change the aspects of your personality. Just as we show you in our first speech, that yes, personality is not something that's very definite, that's something that's infinite, but something that can keep on changing with time. And we do believe that if Belinda is to pursue a long-term relationship with this person, then they can actually, this is not very right to say that male lacks mutual understanding between them, because even before you look, and that's some kind of, that shows a mutual understanding, that mutual understanding is very problematic. That means he's going to be financially stable, he's going to present many opportunities to Belinda in the same field in which they are working, since all of them are doing computer, and then the happiness that's going to be for them is something that's right, that's better in when they pursue a long-term relationship than when Belinda decides to pursue it alone. Since actually even in all relationships, so I think support for each other, so a supportive partner is what we all want. So is it bad for Belinda to be a supportive partner to Mil, and Mil also to be a supportive partner to Belinda? I think that's something that we achieve more on our side of the house. I'm not taking your POI, please. So that essentially means that there is a lot of potential growth and development that can occur on Belinda in pursuing the long-term relationship than on claims of she can do it alone. Because yes, she may be able to do it alone, but it's definitely better, and all of us want to look at something better, not something that's just vague. Well, since we've already answered the reason why the only thing, what should prevent her from pursuing the relationship are the annoyances that she may not be comfortable with, but she's completely okay with the company, then I believe change and evolution that may happen amongst people, and how the long-term relationship is meant to be characterized definitely solves that. I'm not taking your POI, please. We really think the new experiences and the different challenges, by the time one becomes a CEO, we do believe they've gone through by the time one becomes a CEO, we believe they've gone through many experiences that may be enough to shape even the annoyances that Belinda may get from this person. Once and foremost, Belinda is driven by ambition. She's completely intelligent, and we also join her to support. We also join her to tell her she should get a long-term relationship with Mil, who is the future billionaire. Once it comes to having a supportive partner, we really think they have a strong foundation for understanding and support. You support each other in your professional aspirations. Luckily, these people are in the same professional aspirations, since all of them are doing computer. I think that actually solves many other problems that may come in the mixing of careers that happen among many partners. So Belinda is already safe from that. The only issue of this of Mil may end up cheating. We think cheating in a self-relationship, that's something that's very symmetrical. That's not very easy to say, since Bill may end up cheating, since cheating in itself in relationship, something that's symmetrical, that may happen in all incidences or in some instances, depending on how the relationship runs. So we really believe that cheating should not be something in this context, because even if you say Mel is going to cheat, so if Belinda is to pursue another relationship with someone, when that person cheat, we think cheating in itself depends on the quality of the relationship, and in this case, we do believe there's a low chance of Mel cheating him and himself. So by the fact that there is inspiration between these two, there is motivation for personal growth, we do believe that Belinda should definitely pursue a long time. I'll take it on.
Do you believe that there is a high possibility Belinda will try to look pitch perfect or have unnecessary pressure that will affect her mentality, her traits to fit in Miles' bubble, having known the foresight? Engage.
Pardon?
Do you believe that there is a high possibility Belinda will try to look pitch perfect or have unnecessary pressure that will affect her mentality and traits to fit in Miles' bubble, having known the foresight?
Don't believe. So now, once it comes by the fact that even Belinda is working hard, and she's bright, I really think it's the benefits that come out of this that she's looking at. And then by the fact that it's only annoyances, I really think it may not be something that's very big to say, yes, she's going to compromise herself. But rather they should compromise in terms of the relationship, which is a characteristic of all relationships. As I conclude my speech, pardon? Oh my God. I really think there are complementary personalities that should exist in this relationship. It's about with that. And then the shared journey that these people have is something that's better. And by the fact that we are now using the holy Infoslide, we really think these people are a perfect couple and they should pursue a long-term relationship. Since in the first place, why people go into relationships is majorly for support, emotional and financial, and then sustain themselves, which Belinda achieves most with male. Thank you.
Thank you so much, speaker, for the amazing speech. And to you people in the audience, once you are not engaging the current speaker, please keep minded to mute your microphone. You do not need to interrupt the speaker with whatever is happening in your background. Thank you. So for now, let's have the second speaker opposition.
Okay. I'm second opposition. Pano, can you just confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Hello? Pano.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you. Let me just my timer. Yeah, if you have a POI, I think you'll just unmute, but preferably do it around like the 5th minute, and then I'll take it from then. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Pano, I really think that the info slide has put opposition in a hard position, and they have tried to sidestep it, but actually have weakened their case even more. And I'm going to show you how that is even more problematic for them. I think when the motion comes and says that several aspects of Mill's personality annoy Belinda. So what opposition decides to do is they come and tell us, you know what? Relationships are based on mutual understanding, initially trying to tell us that we consent to each other's differences and we live amongst them, trying to minimize Mill's bad behaviors. But then they come and again tell us that they think that characters involve. I think when opposition comes and tells us this, they acknowledge the fact that he has a lot of things in his personality which are not good, and this is why they try to hope that doing things such as becoming a CEO will change his characters. I think that weakens their case very much. The implication of this is that a rich and ambitious girl such as Belinda is putting herself in a toxic relationship, which she's very unhappy with so many of his traits, as the Infoslide said, several of his traits, undermining her own belief that she'll become successful because she now knows that this person will become successful. So she tries to cling on her. I beg to propose. I just want to do two things in my speech. I want to first give you engagement, then I do a few extensions. I think there are a few things I want to highlight. I think what makes this debate really important is the fact that Belinda is a girl in her 20s. What this implies is that any change she's about to do now, the world which wins today's debate is one which is of the utmost importance. The world which you choose in today's debate is the one which she will live in for the rest of her life. That being said, at the end result, and I think this is where my first speaker said something that is really important, of enjoying your life, succeeding or fulfilling your goals. I think at the end of that day, once you have finished and you have succeeded your goals, once you sit down and let's say you're there with your family and you're not out shopping and blowing money, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to you in your house and who you're with and whether you're satisfied with them. It is for this reason that we think their side of the house, where they come and tell us that, that he will be able to comfort her. I think it's very much less likely to happen in that aspect. I want to engage on a few things from that they try to bring about. I think when they come and try and push this image that Will is, someone who is really supportive, who is really so passionate, I think those are really assertions. I think the one guarantee that we have on our side of the house is the fact that Belinda is a bright and ambitious girl. I think the implication of this is that even if Mill is not the partner she chooses, the implication of this is that she'll still have the intellect and ability to choose another partner who will be able to suit her desires. I think the debate then comes down to why exactly should she specify to this partner. We think in our side of the house, she should not pursue that relationship. Why is this the case? I think we give you a few examples. a few things from our first speech. My first speaker does a good job. She comes and tells you how this person will be unable to focus. I think it's important to notice that relationships are something that really affects you. That is to say, if you have in a relationship with someone who you are really dissatisfied with, your ability to move in your daily life is going to be significantly affected, especially for a person who is in their 20s, who is working on their sciences, and also is open to the field of potential marriage partners, which is what Belinda is on for this world. I think the POY we ask in first speech is really important. My first speaker asks a POY and she tells you, do you believe this partner will try to look perfect in Mill's eyes to suit his taste? I think the implication of this is that someone who is not satisfied with this other person is now going to have to change themselves and act like they are satisfied with them, or at least to act in a way that suits his desires. We think that is very detrimental for her future lifestyle and her academic. The second is how it undermines effort. I think this works in a way. At the end of the day, or when Belinda finally grows old, I think at the end of the day, when she looks back in her life and thinks that, you know what, I undermined my own belief that I could be successful by myself, rejected. I undermined that the belief that I could be successful by myself, but then clinged on someone because I knew he would be successful. I think that undermines the potential that I could have had. We think that is then detrimental for Belinda as an individual. The third is on the whole idea of long-term sustainability. I think a whole idea of this is that Belinda as a person is dissatisfied with Mill. I think the implication of this is that in a relationship, most times, if you notice, the partners are able to identify certain things about each other. That is to say, if the Mill becomes a rich billionaire, there is no guarantee that he's going to stay with someone who is annoyed with him and dissatisfied with him. I think that is another thing that their side of the house fails to notice. We think on that metric, even their whole idea of them becoming successful together is less likely going to happen on their side of the house. The last is on the whole thing idea of pursuing of Belinda being able to pursue her ideals and her ambition. I think it comes out from our first speech really well. The claim here was that when you then try and guarantee on someone who you know that is going to become successful, you reduce the belief in your own capability to probably strive alone or choose someone by yourself, not dependent on the fact that he's going to become successful. The implication here is that at the end of the day, when Belinda looks back at her life, she's going to think that A, I probably reduced my ability or the extent of me achieving my goals because I clinged on someone who was guaranteed successful instead of fighting for myself. And second, the end of the day is, at the end of the day, Belinda is going to look back at her life and feel dissatisfied. I think that is another implication on their side of the house. What do we give you on our side of the house? I think we tell you that there's a high guarantee that her side of the house is able to achieve her own goals. And I think the reason why their side of the house tries to push onto us that she's going to achieve this alone is merely an assertion. I think we tell you that the mere aspect that she's a bright and ambitious girl means that even if this is not a partner she's choosing, she still has the ability and intellect to probably choose another partner that's better suited and doesn't have those ideals, even if he's not guaranteed to become successful. We think building can also occur on our side of the house, but also that person could also be successful. I think that is another flaw on our side of the house, on their side of the house. But I think secondly, when we come and tell you that she's not building her life or reducing her ability or her belief in herself based on somebody else's achievements, but rather she's focusing on herself and using her own ability to choose her own partner, basing on belief in her own ideals. I think that better suits things like happiness and enjoyment of life in the long run, which we show you from our side of the house. Lastly, panel, I think if we move a bit back and argue in the current status quo, I think what the Infoslide tells us is that the current status quo, these two people are pursuing their ideals, and it comes out from our first speaker. She tells you that the motion does not give a guarantee towards things like Belinda's actualization when she comes with will. And I think this is really important. I think it's important to note, as the context we gave you of relationships, that in the current status quo, these two people are working together. Notice to say, if Belinda currently chooses to stay with someone who is annoying her, who is dissatisfied with several of his personality aspects, the implication of this is that her ability to focus or achieve on herself is going to be restricted. This is why my first speaker gave you so many examples of things like depression and mental health orders. I think the problem with their side of the house is that they don't understand the implication of putting yourself in a relationship that you are dissatisfied with based on the belief that you'll change. And I think it's an important thing to also notice. That's why they say things like change a root a tree while it's still young, not while it's old. That is to say, changes of things like personalities are less likely to happen when someone is old as when they are young. So even if their side of the house is to argue things like compatibility, we still think that on their side of the house, things like Belinda will still be
Speaker time.
dissatisfied in the long run. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Speaker. That was an amazing speech. Let us hear from the third speaker proposition.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thanks to my teammate that have reached here, and shout out to Hussein. Yeah. So apparently I'll be starting my speech. I'll take a POI around my 50th minute, so don't badger before that, right? So yeah, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. Chair, this house says Belinda would pursue a long-term relationship with Miles. Two things we need to understand. First of all, this is an actor motion, so we need to know what are then the interests of this Belinda. And we show you that her interests are things like growth and things like having shared values and for her to be able to achieve her goals in the long run, right? But then secondly, we need to know that as you're entering a relationship, there is always that mutual growth that happens because people keep on evaluating and sort of changing due to the experiences and the challenges that then they necessarily face in life and then in the relationship with itself. The key question that actually opposition has to answer is that actually they need to weigh for us how the benefits that she will actually get in these long-term relationships are less than the current things that are then affecting her, and how then that will not be able to make her achieve the long-term happiness that then we necessarily look out from our side, which they already fail us. First of all, I'm going to do a bit of rebuttal from Jed's speech, and then I'm going to show you the points of clash. So the entire opposition's case is based on two things: breakup likelihoods and cheating. We think that on the point of breakup, this is something that we cannot credit them. Why is that? This shows that in the info slide, they already say that they are dating. So meaning that by the time they say that she wants to go in for the long-term relationship, this shows that she wants to actually strengthen this relationship that then they necessarily have. So meaning things like breakup cannot happen. But then secondly, I don't think breakup is going to happen because when you go for a long-term relationship, this shows that you're going in things for marriage, which in the end of the day, meaning that this guy is a wealthy guy. So meaning if they end up sort of divorcing, this will look like there's going to be a share of the wealth, which he necessarily won't want because he wants to remain he wants to remain with his status as being the millionaire in society. But then lastly, we need to understand that in relationships, there is the mutual understanding that comes in. Already them sustaining that dating life shows that they have been able to sustain each other, and she has already been able to like understand him in the long run. So I don't think that breaking up likelihood is something that you need to credit opposition for. On the point of cheating, two things of analysis. So they tell us that, hey, look here, he's going to cheat on her and all that stuff. We don't think he's going to cheat because in their own world, they tell you that in the long run, she's going to try to be pitch perfect and that is going to affect her emotional health. But yeah, here, look here, if she's going to try to look pitch perfect for him, then what is the necessity of him wanting to cheat at the end of the day? So that shows that he won't cheat. And then secondly, they tell us that things like, you know what, his character is annoying and all that stuff. But we want to tell you that being annoying doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't good in the long run, right? Because in the info slide, it shows that actually she enjoys his company, meaning that you can't enjoy someone's company when actually you think that he's someone that he's not good at in the long run, right? But then also secondly, you need to understand that in this relationship, she has been able to understand and learn their differences, and that means that in relationships you compromise and understand each other, meaning that in the long run she enjoys his company because you can't remain in a relationship with someone you don't find his company fun and you're dissatisfied with, right? So that shows that that doesn't then necessarily stand from their case. And then lastly, on the point of efforts, they tell us that and actually things like effort does not necessarily stand in because she's going to put in more effort to look like his standard. But we think that that point is actually something you cannot credit them because firstly they do not mechanize it, but then also secondly we understand that an effort needs an incentive, and that's why both of them need to work together in order to keep this long-term relationship together, meaning that it's not a one-sided thing in the long run. Back to the points of clash, there have been 3 points of clash. Sustainability. Why do you think sustainability is better achieved from our world? We tell you things like, you know what, this long-term relationship is based on support, growth, and both of them want to maximize happiness of the two individuals, not only for Belinda, but also for Mile as well. So from our case, there is that sustainability that comes because they have already been able to sustain themselves
and dating and going for this long-term relationship actually shows that they're going to have happiness and there's going to be sustainability. Second point of clash has been support. Two layers of analysis on the points of emotional and financial, right? On the point of emotional, what opposition tells us is, hey, look here, she has the potential to be rich because she has, good grades and all that stuff. Two things as to why their claim is actually false. We see that not everyone who has good grades or studies is then necessarily successful in the long run. But also, we concede to the fact that she has the potential to be rich, but she will be richer when actually she's in this relationship with him because she can learn these experiences from him. She can support him, he can support her, and in the long run, they achieve their shared values of having this relationship to bigger things. And both of them can actually have a shared journey whereby they have a common vision to actually have a better company and actually enjoy their life in the long run. That is on the emotional part. But then also, secondly, on the financial part, you see that in the long run, this guy is wealthy. She also is supporting him. He's supporting they're supporting each other. So this shows that from our side, there is guarantee for happiness, there is guarantee for support and emotional well-being. Well, in their case, they do not show that actually there is that well-being of that emotional. And then they tell us things like, you know what, she's going to lose focus and all that because she's supporting him. I don't think this is the issue in today's debate. Why? Because they have already been dating, right? So in that process, she did not lose focus because she's ambitious and those are her character traits. So that shows that she won't then necessarily lose this sort of focus in the long term to come. So they lose out on that. Last point of clash has been happiness and the well-being. From our side, we guarantee to you happiness and the well-being because both of them are able to understand each other because she likes him and she enjoys his company. And in relationships, we need to understand that we are able to compromise and there is mutual understanding that happens in the long run, right? So meaning no one is then affected because they understand each other's differences and they're able to fill in for the gap, for the loopholes of like the gaps that they have in that relationship. So meaning that the current situation that they have of his annoying character, that is not a problem to worry about because this annoying character can be solved through things of mutual understanding, can be minimized when she talks to him because this guy is willing to understand.
Yeah,
This guy is willing to actually go in for anything for her because at the end of the day, he loves her and he's willing to actually do nice things for her as well as him. So this is a two-sided relationship where both of them actually love each other, where both of them enjoy each other's company.
Emotion, yeah.
So meaning that
Emotion,
there's
yeah.
no way.
Semi-finals, you may think it's a what?
Excuse me, there's someone talking.
Okay, so I'll continue with my speech. So meaning that in the long run, both of them are having that sort of happiness because you can't feel happy with someone that you then necessarily feel you're not satisfied with. And this is the reason as to why then Belinda cannot leave Mile in the long run and Mile cannot leave Belinda. And there is no way Belinda's emotional well-being is going to be affected because at the end of the day, she actually gets her interest from this relationship and both of them are actually gaining. It's not only Belinda or him that are then necessarily gaining. So we show you that her emotional well-being is then better achieved of when she's in this relationship because I mean people enter relationships to get that emotional support, to get that individual who's going to be there for you, that person who's going to tell you no, you can do it, that person who's going to be a role model and a person whom you can learn from. And remember, these guys are actually in the same class, they have the same academic sort of view of life, and both of them have actually these shared values and vision in the long run. So meaning that there is no way one is going to like sort of be burdened more than the other because they want to like sort of fit in this relationship. This shows that both of them are going to then necessarily benefit and this relationship is then going to like sort of be sustainable. So from you that this long-term relationship with Mile is something that you should front because of the benefits that then she necessarily gets and the challenges that she has of his annoying character are things that can be mitigated through the mutual understanding and resolved through the communication that then necessarily happens from our side. So meaning that in our side we're able to solve all that which opposition then necessarily fails to do. So that is something that we cannot then necessarily credit them with. That I beg to rest my case.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us have third speaker, opposition. Third speaker opposition.
He's in the call. He just has a technical difficulty. He's disconnecting and reconnecting. If you could just give him a few seconds.
All right, in a minute he should be with us. I think we have lost a lot of time. Is the third speaker there?
Yes, he's on the call. I think he has a problem with his microphone. Um,
Can someone get in touch with him?
yeah, we're talking to him right now.
All right. Do you get to trust that we are going to get him?
Yes, he's working on it as we speak. If you could just give him
All right.
a few more seconds.
He is keeping all of us waiting for so long.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Panel?
Yeah, Fahad, you're audible.
Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. So let me set my personal timer. Not to waste your time. Go POI. I'll answer it around the mid time of my speech. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. One of this debate then comes down to whether we should support a side that then achieves a richer Belinda when she's unhappy, rather than a side that achieves rich enough Belinda when she's happy. Or maybe they didn't understand something. When someone is annoying and then they get voting, this then leads to things like pride and overwhelmingness. This being a wood motion, we then expected them to show us the mechanism upon which they are going to necessarily have Belinda to pursue this particular long-term relationship. With the concession to the fact that she has to change herself to become pitch perfect, this is then the mechanism we buy into that they are actually supporting. That then shows you that the mechanization they bring to her is something that's going to be problematic. That's the one I'm going to show in my speech. First thing, again, to be secondly, the clashes. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that she's going to forego she's going to be able to forego the annoyances from past speech. This then does not become mechanized because they only tell us that these particular things are things that are normal, are livelihoods things, right? But then they bring up the claim of love, which then also a livelihood thing, which we then believe that can also change an when someone does not become perfect for you. And necessarily means that if at all the so-called annoyances can change, that means the love that they also affront on the fact that she can argue for the annoyances can also change, and then milk can then stop loving them. I won't engage you. The second thing is that they are telling us about the fact that they are going to be sharing problems, having shared interests. But when understand that the school they are in doesn't necessarily have only one man, or the one that they're in doesn't necessarily have one man. There are many options that you can have that whereby someone can then ally with their interests, and then share their problems, and also have the idea of them being a good person rather than having them to be annoying. They talk about the fact that the status of a woman should also be high. This is the concession from second speech, because she then tells you that in status quo, currently people in society consider women to also need to have a high status of woman to be also high, right? This necessarily shows you that male also wants a woman who's of a high status. It necessarily shows you that in a scenario whereby hope then proves for you that Belinda is necessarily going to fail to achieve the so-called status that she needs to have in status quo, then we then stand to win this debate. Let's look at the idea that she's going to still be determined on the idea, right? We point to two rebuttals on this particular idea. The first thing we tell you is that she's not going to be determined enough simply because she knows that someone is going to have her back in terms of economy and achievement, right? And then the second argument is that she's going to try and change herself and lose the focus that she's supposed to have in class and focus to get this particular first area that she's actually pursuing in the first place, right? That then shows you that if at all she wants to become pitch perfect for meal, that then necessarily means that she's going to end up losing the so-called focus and determination she requires. I'm going to make a on that and show you how it makes her necessarily fail to become successful. Talk about the fact that opportunities that she can get from meal, right? And necessarily shows you that first of all they are fronting corruption, whereby she's going to necessarily favor him. But if they're not fronting corruption, necessarily showing you that many people can obviously give her the opportunities that meal could also give her, because there's not only one CEO of a particular company in the whole world, right? That speaker comes and tells us that there's going to be ideas of sharing wealth in divorce, and he would want to keep her so-called his so-called incentive. Firstly, Mill is someone who's very rich, right? Necessarily that means that he's attractive, he's liked by many women. Necessarily he has many options other than Belinda, right? That necessarily shows you that her status in the doesn't matter because she is out of work, right? That necessarily shows that in a scenario whereby he has to divorce Belinda, necessarily doesn't stand any incentive to then stop her, regardless of the fact that society then discourages divorces, right? That necessarily shows you that he can necessarily get any other woman status quo, regardless of the fact that she's with Belinda or not. And when in a scenario whereby Belinda is not that successful, then it divides him to then want to get another woman, which then this gives it removes the guarantee that they'll stay together in the end of it all. I'll talk about that in the clash of male status. They talk about the fact that they love each other. But no, as they consider the fact that things like behavior and annoyances can necessarily change. I mean, the whole idea of love, there's nothing you should find as a guarantee of them staying together because it does not guarantee the fact that they'll still love together on the other at the end of the day. Talk about the fact that they're supposed to support each other. Part of the support that they're supposed to have in the core is support that is in things like emotional and mental that necessarily gives them the incentive to then necessarily succeed in the ideas they're supposed to be focusing on. What that then shows you, Panu, let me dig into the point of clash. Belinda's success. Firstly, Infoslide necessarily shows you that Belinda is able and capable of actually achieving success on her own, regardless of the idea that she's going to be with someone else on the end of the day. Right? And necessarily shows you that she'll be able to make enough money on the idea that she's going to be fronted. But that then shows you that if she's going to be affected by Mill's relationship, because first of all, he's annoying. But then being annoying means that she's going to have to feed into to become pitch perfect, then feed into those particular annoyances, and then show that Mill is a good man or something that or maybe that is giving her happiness. But that then shows you that she's going to lose the focus that she's supposed to have to determine her success. How that this happens is that those particular annoyances then affect her mindset, which then make her lose the focus, which then make her fail in her classes, and then fail to get things like scholarships that will then boost her ability to achieve what she's actually doing at, right? What this then pushes you to that she's necessarily going to fail to get the occupation that she's fighting so much to get. What that then shows you is that she's going to fail to contribute to the relationship, which then means that coherently, Mill will not have a reason to necessarily stay with her. What this then means that Mill's status in status quo is very high. This gives him the incentive to have a woman who's first of all going to be able to contribute to his wealth rather than only going to be consuming it. Because if I don't he has such an option in status quo, there's no way he would actually choose a woman who would necessarily going to be just consuming rather than actually contributing to their relationship. But that then shows you that there's the ability of Mill to actually get another woman, which then shows you that in a scenario whereby Belinda is going to necessarily lose the idea and ability to succeed on her own, which then means that the whole idea of him being with Mill is something that he's not by it. The second point of clash is Mill's ability to change. Three arguments we front on this. Firstly, it's going to be too late for Mill to necessarily change at the end of the day when actually Belinda has already lost her ability to actually succeed because she's already tried to become perfect, her mindset has been damaged, and her focus in class has been damaged. So that necessarily means that she's going to obviously fail her exams and not actually be able to pursue what she's actually planning for. But also, secondly, this is just an assumption. What they assume is that she's going to get better due to environmental experience, which first of all they don't mechanize, and secondly, you can show you that this particular environment can also have the ability to make living worse when the idea that it can even become more annoying and even the idea of love. Because we then tell you that worse plus annoying then can lead to things like pride and necessarily have this particular person use the incentive would actually become good in the first place because there's no reason for me to become good because I have money. Who else do I need? I don't need people, I don't need anyone else. I have the money I have, right? Then necessarily shows you the whole idea of him changing is an assumption. But also thirdly, let me show you that they will show you that the idea of being changing is not so important in this debate because there are people in existence that are school who are already good enough for Belinda and also are not annoying. Right? That means that if there exists people in school who can necessarily feed into Belinda's ideas of being happy and necessarily not being annoying, then she does not have the incentive to just be patient and be patient and be patient and wait for me to actually change. But with incentivize her to wait for Mill to change is the money incentive that Mill will then give her. But that then is eliminated because of the fact that we know Belinda can succeed on her own, which then shows that she has no incentive. Don't decide to wait for Mill to change on that particular perspective. What that then feeds into is that Belinda is better off on her own because the relationship is something that's supposed to bring her back to make her look back and realize that you had some happy moments. But that then shows you at the end of the day you're going to have a richer Belinda on side proposition who's then necessarily going to not be happy enough to actually live her life. But in side of you're going to have a rich enough Belinda who's necessarily going to be able to live her life and having enough money and also being able to tell stories to their children how happy they are and how they should pursue things like education rather than having these things like love on the incentive of that side of the house. But this debate then comes down to the necessity that Belinda would then have a better life rather than having a life that is necessarily contributable. What then they tell you is that Belinda would be richer on that side of the house. And we tell you that there's an idea that Bill will necessarily leave her because she's not the only woman who's there and there are women who can contribute to his work rather than having a Belinda who has failed. And we tell you that Belinda can fail simply because of her lack of focus in class and necessarily other things that can then happen when she tries to be pitch perfect. I rest my case.
Well, thank you so much, speaker, for the amazing speech. Let us have the reply speech from opposition.
Okay, opposition reply. Pano, could you just confirm if I'm audible?
You are audible.
Let me just set my timer. Okay, 4 minutes. I'll begin my speech in three, two, one. So, Pano, on account of the debate from opposition, I think we both agree that there are a lot of things which are being tossed around throughout the debate, interests and claims. But I think it's important to note that at the end of the debate, both sides came to a common consensus of something that should be important. That is to say, the happiness. I think that's why in Prop 3, she came and started a clash of things like happiness and sustainability. On that note, I think there are a lot of things said by opposition, which really poke holes in government's case. And at the end of the day, show you why our side of the house is better. On the whole thing of happiness in sustainability kind of act, I think the government's case was hinged on the fact that they believe that someone can change. That is to say, consenting that he has several bad personalities now, but hoping that people's personalities can change in the long run. There was a rebuttal given to you by opposition that puts this down. And the rebuttal was that there were two layers. The first was that it's harder for someone to change their personalities when they are an old person. That is to say, the likelihood of him being able to change those personalities and become some kind of perfect partner is going to be significantly less. The implication was that in the long run, Belinda is still going to be dissatisfied with majority of his personalities. The second layer of rebuttal to this was the fact that if he's a millionaire, he's not going to be able to change, he won't be so incentivized to change his habits for someone. And I think this is where opposition's whole claims of things such as pride came into the debate. I think on those two metrics, we showed you how in the long run, the sustainability that they tried to put about is less likely to happen. But even thirdly, I think when the info slide tells you that she has doubt that they'll be in a long-term relationship, I think most of governments claim that you know what, she's been in a relationship right now, so in the future they'll be together. I think the very info slide tells you that the ability of her to live with this person significantly less. And that is why even things such as happiness really to a lesser extent exist on their side of the house. The last thing is I think when government tried to tell us that relationships are built on mutual understanding, and I think this is why they really weakened their own case. The claim from government was that, you know what, relationships, everybody has differences and we should compromise. I think that claim would have existed in a debate where the bad qualities are not that much. The problem in this debate was that he has several personalities that she's dissatisfied with. And I think when we take down the possibility of change, it means that that mutual understanding is going to be less on their side of the house. I think when we gave you an alternative and showed you, we gave you two worlds. We gave you firstly, we think that Belinda can survive on herself. But even if analysis came from second speech, we told you, even if that is not the case, we still think she has the intellect and the ability to choose a good partner for her, something that was not engaged on her side. So I think on the two metrics we show you, we think that even if she doesn't solve this partner, that we doesn't choose Mill, the likelihood of her enjoying her life is going to be better. And the last thing I want to give you on the metric of looking back on her life in terms of things like happiness, as my speech ends, I think when opposition tells you that a smart and ambitious woman didn't believe in her own talents, but rather hinged on someone she didn't like because he was successful, that is not someone who will be happy. At the end of the day, when she sits down in that house with him, she won't be happy, regardless of the money, regardless of what she has in her bank account. And I think that is really where government failed in this debate. I think on our side of the house, we clearly show you that in order to achieve, let's say, her goals, she's not hinged on someone who she doesn't like. She can focus on herself. I think to be happy, she can choose someone she likes, someone else based on her intellect, or she can even be alone. On those metrics, we show you how our side of the house is better. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, speaker. Let us have the very last speaker of this round.
Clearly
Yes, you are
audible.
audible. Mm.
Okay, so let me begin my speech. Yeah. Anyways, before I begin my speech, I think we have come so far. So yeah, congratulations all the team. So my speaker time will begin in 3, 2, 1. Specific things even as I reduce my pace of speaking. this is where team proposition wins. Belinda, in this case, by the info slide, knows that Mill will be a millionaire CEO, but then Mill does not know. What does that do? That decidedly rules out the arguments of, hey, Mill's future is then guaranteed and his success is guaranteed. So, that is really proves an inconsistency and an out for team opposition. Largely, notice in this debate that when Mill also goes into this relationship, when we tell you of things like compromise, that equally means that even Mill has to make this particular compromise. That is to say, even to the extent of compromising these annoying traits that still exist. Yeah. Notice that in the first place, these two individuals were then equally dating. That means in the first place, even Belinda likes Mill, and also Mill equally likes Belinda. That necessarily means both of these individuals are then willing to make that trade-off. Yeah. That is why team proposition wins. Because yeah, notice that these two individuals are all willing to compromise. It's not all about the compromise of Belinda, but even Nate is also willing to compromise his particular kind of ego, so that because she wants also to particularly kind of fit in this relationship. But also, largely, when I tell you that Mill is then basically also not aware and his success is not guaranteed, yeah, actually, and when I tell you that he's also basically willing to make this compromise, that also necessarily rules out the entire arguments of probably kind of pitch perfecting, or trying to look perfect in the eyes of Mill. Because yeah, that rules out the essence. That means yeah, a relationship is basically two-way, and these people are basically dating. When you're dating, that means you equally like me, also equally like you. So yeah, that largely rules out the entire opposition case. But yeah, even if we assume that it still stands at any point, even if you wanted to credit them, when they tell us that, hey, she has a significant level of basically getting richer even without the help of this particular man. Yeah, we largely tell in our subsequent speeches that, hey, we think that the brightness and ambition is not what guarantees success. Yeah, brightness and ambition is not what guarantees success, but rather it also helps you and it aids you in pursuing things like success. But largely, yeah, we justify to you that, hey, we think Mill does not know his particular kind of prospective sort of analysis that, oh, hey, he'll become a CEO, millionaire CEO. It is only with this Belinda that is knowing this particular sort of thing to happen, and that is to say, it's like she has the power of prediction. Yeah. The burden of on opposition then became to then justify why, even in such a relationship, Mill won't basically make this particular compromise, or you won't compromise his annoying traits. That is what they don't justify, and that is why they lose out on this debate. Yeah. I repeat, the burden was then to justify why, even in such a relationship, Mill won't be able, or Mill wouldn't want to compromise his particular annoying traits. Quote, yeah. That is what we justify to you. That if these two people are then dating, as per now, if they're dating, that proves that they significantly like each other. Yeah. Well, that is what you basically get from our side of that. And that is why largely we win this debate. Yeah. We show you that, hey, even if you're ambitious and right, that does not guarantee things like success, or it doesn't guarantee things like wealth. So yeah, on a comparative analysis, we still think that Belinda, it is still in her best interest to pursue such this particular kind of long-term relationship. But yeah, even when we come and argue on grounds of happiness and all that stuff, and when we tell you that, hey, so this whole debate is basically on the whole idea of then probably like being in the best interest of this particular lady, shall we think that it's still in the best interest of her, particularly to kind of to pursue this particular relationship? Why? Because then, yeah, when they say that, hey, so we think that maybe Belinda will be less incentivized to achieve her goals, shall we clearly show you that, hey, so Belinda is the sort of person that is probably kind of ambitious and probably up to her game. So, yeah, still she will be ambitious and she will achieve her claim. So, yeah, team proposition wins this debate. Vote for prop. I beg to rest.
Thank you so much for resting. It was an amazing speech. Well, thank you all for giving us a worthy finals. It was fire. I hope everybody in the audience has really enjoyed as much as we have. So, for the sake of deliberation, I think this is what you're going to do. I don't know what my other panelists think, that we remain on the call and then do the deliberations. I do not know what the others think. Among the panelists, one of you is going to is free to unmute and speak to me.